First tonight, there's been a broad welcome of Donald Trump's proposal to end the war in Gaza as the world awaits a response from Hamas. The plan has been accepted by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Palestinian Authority, who the text envisages may eventually lead a Palestinian state. It's also garnered a positive reaction from Arab and Muslim countries who vowed to help ensure its implementation. Hamas says it's studying the terms, which include the group laying down all its weapons, Israel ending all military operations in Gaza, and all Israeli hostages being freed within 72 hours of a deal being reached. That will then see Israel releasing hundreds of Palestinian detainees. More aid will also begin to enter Gaza, with no Palestinians forced to leave the Strip. Gaza would be redeveloped, with the door left open to a potential two-state solution. A new international transitional administration would be formed, overseen by what is called a Board of Peace, chaired by President Trump. The board will include other present and former world leaders, among them the former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. Israel would not annex Gaza, and crucially, there would be no role for Hamas in any government there.
Working with the new transitional authority in Gaza, all parties will agree on a timeline for Israeli forces to withdraw in phases. There'll be success of this effort. My plan calls for the creation of a new international oversight body, the Board of Peace, we call it, the Board of Peace, sort of a beautiful name, the Board of Peace, which will be headed, not at my request, believe me, I'm very busy, but we have to make sure this works. The leaders of the Arab world and Israel and everybody involved asked me to do this, so it would be headed by a gentleman known as President Donald J. Trump of the United States.
The negotiating delegation promised to study it responsibly, which is what is happening now. Even today, there will be another meeting with the presence of the Turkish side as well as the negotiating delegation. All of this is aimed at consulting on this plan and pushing, as we said, towards an end to this war through this plan. It is still too early to speak about responses, but we are truly optimistic that this plan, as we said, is a comprehensive one. The delegation is now studying it responsibly, and we are continuing to communicate with them through the meeting that will happen this evening.
Hamas will be disarmed. Gaza will be demilitarized. Israel will retain security responsibility, including a security perimeter for the foreseeable future. And lastly, Gaza will have a peaceful civilian administration that is run neither by Hamas nor by the Palestinian Authority. Mr. President, I was encouraged by your clear statement at the UN against the recognition of a Palestinian state. That would be an outcome that, after October 7th, would reward terrorism, undermine security, and endanger Israel's very existence. As for the Palestinian Authority, I appreciate your firm position that the PA could have no role whatsoever in Gaza without undergoing a radical and genuine transformation.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line from London by the author and international affairs analyst, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz. Good to see you, Dr. Laskiewicz. So President Trump's plan for peace in Gaza has now been agreed by Israel and several Arab countries. It's been given a broad global welcome as well. I mean, it's a huge step forward, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. First and foremost, it's a one-sided plan because America and Israel are on the same side. And Israel had an input into it. We're editing parts. Moreover, it's by no means all that it appears, because as Netanyahu stated, there is no recognition of the Palestinian state. And he has asserted, nor will there be one. Moreover, please note that there are conditions such as dropping some cases, ICC cases, ICJ cases against Israel and America, so there's no question of it being genocide. And please note also that there will be this body, which is in effect America or American Israel, ruling over Gaza. It's by no means clear that any of these points will go down well.
Right.
Moreover, there are problems not only whether Hamas will accept it. Arab states have called for more clarification, but it's not clear that the right-wing allies of Netanyahu will accept it either in Israel. So there's still some way to go, but there are good points. Both sides are talking. There is no word of any compulsory expulsion of Gazans. And also, it is recognized that more aid has to come through and the hostages have to be returned. So these are positive aspects, but it's by no means as good a deal as is presented. And in some ways, for Hamas itself, it is tantamount to a surrender.
I'm going to return to some of the points you raised there because I think it's important to break them down sort of in bits. But Mr. Trump is demanding that Hamas accept the plan in full, despite, as you said, not having any part in the negotiations. Do you think that is something Hamas can sign up to and accept, or is it a case of having to accept?
Well, that's the whole problem. This is, as it stands, a diktat. Now, however pleasant some of the aspects are, that is what it is. Take it or leave it, says Donald Trump, which is totally different to how he approached Israel, is it not? Israel had a chance to edit it, which it did to some extent. But Hamas, no. So this is a problem. Probably what Hamas will do, and to go with moderate Arabs, is ask for clarification, which will be a euphemism for actually editing parts of it. But as things stand, President Donald Trump has made it quite clear he and Israel want this and it must go ahead. And as such, it is actually a sort of surrender document.
And of course, as you said, I mean, Mr. Trump gave his full backing to Israel to do what it has to do if Hamas fails to fully accept the plan. Is that an ominous warning, perhaps, of what could happen if Hamas do not sign up to this deal and Israel is no longer constrained by the United States?
Yes, I'm afraid it's much worse than that in many ways. There are Israelis, including ministers, who want to annex the West Bank. Others want to annex Gaza. The notion of compulsory expulsion, although it is not present in this document, is, if you like, implicit threat. And when President Donald Trump speaks like that, the threat is there. So what you're really saying is, you do this or else, which is a diktat. It's negotiating on the point of a gun. And this leaves the Arabs, especially the Gazans, and including the West Bankers, remember, point about annexation concerns them. This leaves in a very difficult situation whereby can they carry on? But if they accept the plan, that may be bad. Not accepting it is bad, nor is there any much help from outside except for some European countries, because Russia is quite clearly not going to do anything. And so from this point of view, yes, it is in effect an ultimatum which he has presented.
The problem for Hamas, in addition to what you're talking about, is that it needs both its commanders on the ground and its political leadership abroad to agree what to do. But the sense that we're getting is that there are Hamas military commanders on the ground in Gaza who are still very robust and who still want war. I mean, how do you assess the implications of that?
Yes, it is a problem which has occurred before in other countries which have been under occupation, Poland, for example, in World War II. And the question is, how far do the political chiefs abroad control the military? In the case of Hamas, it's quite clear the military have a great deal to say, and therefore they could carry on despite whatever the political leaders say. That is a very real problem. And there's no easy way for them, of course, to communicate either. So yes, this is a problem. What is also clear is Hamas, by means of that statement that you've just made, is showing that it's not necessarily prepared to accept any terms at any price. Well, this means that the alternative of the war carrying on with America now fully supporting Israel, or at the very least not offering any restraint, as you state, is in fact very real, and goodness knows what's going to happen then. Annexation of the West Bank and Gaza would be on the cards.
Now, one of the concessions, it seems, that's been made to Israel is this proposal, in this proposal, is the language around a future Palestinian state. It talks about the aspirations of the Palestinian people and how finally conditions may be in place after the reform of the Palestinian Authority. I mean, that sounds like a very long path with a lot of ifs. Might that be too much for Mr. Netanyahu's right-wing coalition partners, and perhaps too little for Hamas?
Yes, dealing first with the right-wing coalition partners, their argument has been all along, as long as Hamas stays, as long as these areas like the West Bank and Gaza are not, in fact, annexed, then from that point of view, nothing good has happened. If, on the other hand, they succeed in blocking this agreement, then in their view, Israel will have a free hand now to do just that. So from their point of view, as things stand, no, it's not what they wanted. From Hamas's viewpoint, it's even worse. President Netanyahu has stated there is no promise of a Palestinian state. It's that simple. All it is a vague outline to something which may occur, which you've said are a lot of ifs. But there's no doubt that there is no implicit, inherent Palestinian state on the horizon.
And I mean, the future of governance of Gaza involves President Trump heading this transitional government in Gaza. I mean, will he have the time and energy and the grasp of detail to be the chair of the Board of Peace, as he calls it?
Well, indeed, that's a very good point. It's even worse than that. You see, the Gazans, Palestinians, used to be ruled by the British Empire, and they're not that happy as they're being ruled, having been so ruled. And now in comes Tony Blair, in comes Donald Trump. It really has overtones of the past when it was just a colony. That's what Palestine was, a British colony. And so in that sense, not only is it unlikely President Donald Trump can devote the energy to this and the time, but it will not be an automatically wanted or liked governing body. It is, if you like, being imposed on the Palestinians as a result of putting a gun to their head, do this or else. These are not actually very positive points. Had they said, as they did in places like Iraq and so on, that there will be a democratic election soon in a Palestinian state, then people could have swallowed this. I think the Palestinians, but as things stand, it could be for years. So, another mandate, another colony, I mean, it doesn't look good, does it?
It certainly doesn't. And on that note, I want to thank you very much indeed. Dr. Marek Laskiewicz is the author and international affairs analyst. He was talking to me on the line there from London.